There's a certain feeling that comes with the end of October. A crispness in the air, the rustle of dry leaves along the pavement, and the warm, wavering glow of a jack-o'-lantern on a neighbor's porch. Today, Halloween is an industry, a vibrant explosion of store-bought costumes, elaborate decorations, and mountains of candy. But if we rewind the clock back to the heart of mid-century America, we find a different kind of Halloween. It was a celebration woven from folklore and neighborhood spirit. A quieter, more mysterious, and, in many ways, a genuinely spookier celebration. This was a time of handmade magic and neighborhood rituals, long before the age of blockbuster horror movies and mass-produced everything. Join us as we pull back the veil and rediscover the forgotten traditions of a 1950s Halloween. Number 1. The art of the handmade costume. Before superhero costumes were available at the click of a button, a child's Halloween identity was a matter of pure imagination and household ingenuity. A white bedsheet wasn't just for sleeping, it was the perfect canvas for a ghost, smelling faintly of the attic it was stored in. The costume was often completed with a simple plastic mask from the local five and dime, held on by a thin elastic band that always seemed to snap by the end of the night. Creativity was the currency of Halloween. Cardboard boxes became robots. Old clothes were repurposed into scarecrows, and a little bit of a mother's lipstick could create a fearsome scar or a clown's smile. These costumes weren't perfect. They were often clumsy and charmingly flawed, but they were personal. They were a project that began weeks before the big night, building anticipation with every stitch and every smear of paint. Number 2. The golden age of trick-or-treating. While the phrase trick-or-treat had been around for decades, it was in the post-war suburbs of the 1950s that the tradition truly exploded. As dusk settled, groups of friends would set out on their own, often without a parent in sight, armed with nothing but a flashlight and a pillowcase. There was a sense of adventure, of exploring a familiar world made new and mysterious by the darkness. The unspoken rule was simple. A lit porch meant welcome visitors. A dark house meant you moved on to the next. This simple signal created a map of light and shadow across the neighborhood. Number 3. The era of homemade treats. Today's Halloween haul is a predictable treasure trove of brand-name chocolates. But in the 1950s, the treats were often as homemade as the costumes. Children's bags would be filled with popcorn balls, homemade fudge, freshly baked cookies, or even a small bag of freshly roasted peanuts. There was an implicit trust in the community. A treat from a neighbor was an extension of their own kitchen, a gesture of goodwill in a world that felt much smaller and more connected. Number 4. The trick in trick-or-treat. In the 1950s, the trick was a very real part of the night's festivities. This was the age of innocent mischief. Soaping car windows, ringing doorbells and running away, or draping a neighbor's tree in toilet paper were all common pranks. Unlike destructive vandalism, these tricks were mostly temporary and taken in good spirits, a playful annoyance that was simply part of the Halloween tradition.
Number 5. The rise of Mischief Night. But this playful chaos wasn't always confined to Halloween itself. In many parts of America, especially in the Northeast, the night before Halloween was the real time for mischief. Known as Mischief Night, Devil's Night, or even Cabbage Night in some areas, this was a sanctioned evening for teenagers to engage in slightly more elaborate pranks. While the younger kids prepared for trick-or-treating, the older ones might be found stringing up toilet paper or even moving a neighbor's porch furniture to a different yard. It was a tradition of controlled chaos, a final burst of youthful rebellion before the more innocent fun of Halloween night took over. Number 6. The Neighborhood Gathering. Halloween in the 1950s was more than just candy. It was a community event. Many towns and schools hosted parties filled with timeless traditions like apple bobbing and costume contests, all under the warm glow of a gymnasium or community hall. In many small towns, the centerpiece was the local Halloween parade, a humble procession that brought everyone together to line the sidewalks of Main Street. At home, the night often ended with ghost stories told in a circle with only a flashlight to illuminate the storyteller's face, casting long, dancing shadows on the walls. Number 7. Simple and spooky decorations. Long before inflatable lawn dragons, Halloween decorations had a simple folk art charm. Companies like Denison produced iconic die-cut decorations that were taped to windows and hung from doorways, transforming the home with a few simple touches. The jack-o'-lantern was the star of the show. Carving the pumpkin was a family ritual, and the final creation had a personality that a plastic pumpkin could never replicate. The effect was less about shocking horror and more about a charming, homespun spookiness that felt entirely of the community. Number 8. Trick-or-treat for a cause. Amid all the spooky fun, the 1950s also gave birth to a tradition of charity. The Trick-or-Treat for UNICEF program began in 1950. Children would carry a small orange box along with their candy bags, collecting coins to help children in need around the world. It added a layer of purpose to the festivities, teaching a generation of American children that even on a night of make-believe, they could make a real difference. The Halloween of the 1950s may seem simple to us now. It lacked the polish and spectacle of our modern celebrations, but it had something that is perhaps harder to find today: a sense of genuine community, a reliance on pure imagination, and a touch of real old-fashioned mystery. It was a time when the world felt a little bigger, the nights a little darker, and the simple act of knocking on a neighbor's door was a true adventure. A memory of a spookier, simpler time, preserved forever in America's past. What are your favorite Halloween memories? Do you remember any of these traditions? Share your stories in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this trip back in time, be sure to like this video and subscribe to RetroStates for more journeys into America's past.